India and China, two ancient civilizations, two emerging giants, and one complex relationship shaped by war, diplomacy, and economics. As of 2025, it's been 75 years since India became the first non-socialist country to establish diplomatic ties with the People's Republic of China or PRC. What has been the journey like? Let's unpack the key moments, challenges, and lessons in this roller coaster of a relationship. Welcome to the Strive IAS, the place where current affairs meets UPSC relevance. Chapter 1: The Early Days. On April 1, 1950, just 6 months after the People's Republic of China was founded under Mao Zedong, India became the first non-socialist bloc nation to establish diplomatic ties with the PRC. Why? Because Jawaharlal Nehru saw in China a civilizational ally. Both were ancient nations shaking off colonialism. He referred to China as India's old-time friend, but early on there was mistrust, primarily over a 3,000 km undefined border and Tibet. Chapter 2: Seeds of Distrust. China rejected the 1914 Shimla Agreement, which had defined the McMahon Line as the border between Tibet and China. Nehru hoped early recognition of the PRC would help in border negotiations. But as former Foreign Secretary Vijay Gokhale notes in his book The Long Game, that India may have given away too much too soon by accepting the One China policy without securing its own interests. The real turning point came in 1950 when China invaded Tibet. Sardar Patel warned Nehru about China's intentions, calling it a potential enemy, but Nehru pressed ahead with peace. In 1954, the Panchsheel Agreement was signed, listing 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. But just 5 years later, after anti-China riots in Tibet and India giving asylum to the Dalai Lama, China accused India of subverting its sovereignty. In 1962, war broke out. India lost over 3,000 soldiers and 38,000 square kilometers of land in Aksai Chin, its only military defeat since independence. Chapter 3: The Great Power Triangle. The India-China rivalry cannot be seen in isolation. According to Gokhale, it must be viewed in the context of the Great Power Triangle, US, China, and USSR. China viewed India as a regional rival but not equal. India's friendship with the Soviet Union worried Beijing, which in turn grew closer to Pakistan. But changes came in 1988 when Rajiv Gandhi visited China. Deng Xiaoping famously said, "The Asian century cannot happen without India and China." Still, China was racing ahead. It had established ties with the US in 1979, conducted nuclear tests in 1964, was rapidly liberalizing its economy. India, meanwhile, tested nuclear weapons in 1974 and began economic reforms in 1991 after the Soviet Union collapsed. Shiv Shankar Menon writes in Choices that 1993's Border Peace and Tranquility Agreement signed under PM Narasimha Rao was a turning point. Despite public anger over 1962, Rao pushed for realism, keeping troops minimal near the LAC and opening talks on military confidence building. Chapter 4: The Dragon Races Ahead. From 1987 to 2023, China's GDP ballooned from $272 billion to $17.7 trillion, while India's rose from $279 billion to $3.56 trillion. China began to act like a dominant power. Indian diplomats like Shyam Saran noted that Chinese scholars often implied that India should accept its lower rank and align with Chinese interests. Despite this, ties improved briefly. In 2003, China recognized Sikkim as part of India. Special representatives were appointed to manage border issues. But the 21st century brought new fault lines, especially China's expansionism in the Indo-Pacific and its growing alliance with Pakistan. Now, Chapter 5: Challenges and Lessons. The 2020 Galwan Valley clash shattered the idea that military confrontation was off the table. India stood firm, showing it would not shy away from escalation. What can India learn from China? 1. Focus on quality education and infrastructure. 2. Long-term strategic planning. And 3. Internal unity. Saran warns that narrow nationalism and communal discord weaken India's democratic edge. India doesn't need to copy China, but it can pursue a more ecologically sustainable and inclusive growth model. Geopolitically, India must strengthen military readiness, especially in Indian Ocean, deepen global alliances without becoming a pawn in US-China rivalry. Chapter 6: The Road Ahead. China still sees India through the lens of its rivalry with the US. For Beijing, asserting dominance is part of its post-colonial national rejuvenation project. But India's assertive posture and global goodwill are changing the narrative. In 2024, Xi Jinping and Modi met on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Russia, signaling cautious engagement. Former diplomats believe that despite tensions, two nuclear-armed Asian neighbors must keep communication open. 75 years later, India-China ties remain a complex blend of rivalry, cooperation, and history. As two civilizational giants march into the future, what will define their path? Confrontation or coexistence? For UPSC aspirants, this is not just foreign policy, it's about strategic thinking, diplomatic history, and global order. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos decoding geopolitics. Thank you.